Good morning. My name is Erica Wright, and I'm here to do my final report and presentation for my internship with Verizon for my class, CNT 4940. Let me tell you a little bit about the company. The company is formerly known as MCI WorldCom. We are a subsidiary of Verizon Communications. We are one of the largest communication technology companies in the world. We are over 144,000 employees worldwide. We also provide services with that ranges from TV, internet, residential, business, wireless, wireline, phones. As far as my history, I've been with Verizon Business for 18 years. Actually, I started when it was MCI, then it went to MCI WorldCom, then it went to Verizon Business. I started off in Plano, Texas, as EDS was our primary customer. We were at the site like we are here. That's the way they wanted it. I started off as a network technician 1 and got promoted up to network technician 3 during my time there. We mainly tested 56K circuits. Every now and then we would do a DS1 if it was dedicated. If it wasn't dedicated, we couldn't test without permission from the other locations. And that could be up to 24 locations that you have to get permission to test. So we also did weekly maintenance there on the mainframe. So now I work for Doug Sargent, and I've been with him for 10 years, which we are at the CSX location at the AITC building on Southport Parkway. I started off with him as an associate engineer, and I just recently got promoted to an engineer specialist. So my internship information is basically, again, we are the vendors for CSX Transportation. We maintain their network for a majority of the network. We also provide project and technical support in the development, analysis, and maintenance of the systems, software, processes, products, and equipment. My normal work week is 40 hours a week, normally, but lately it's been pushing up to 50. So I had 3 mentors. So I had Chuck Conway, Michael Black, and Stuart Riggs. All of the 3 are lead specialists. So some of the objectives that I had was to create and proactively create and ETMS tickets and TCIS tickets based off the alerts that we were getting on our monitoring applications, to test DS1s and Ethernet circuits more proficiently and refer it out to the local phone company, which we call the LEC, if needed. I wanted to be able to determine if the interruption was related to a higher level outage in the network, or was there an issue at the customer site, was the issue with the customer equipment, or was the issue with software, was the issue with the configurations. It could be a number of things that could have went wrong, because since this is the train, we have a lot of weather issues, we have a lot of equipment going bad, we have a lot of fiber cuts, from construction. It's a number of things. I wanted to learn how to configure more switches and routers and APs and digis to the sites, to send out to the sites for replacement or for spare. I also wanted to learn how to complete the forms appropriately, so they can be delivered to the right location, to the right person, and there's a process that goes with that. I wanted to perform the maintenance to the core more efficiently, because the core is huge, and normally when it's maintenance done on the core, if the chassis goes bad, the equipment is too heavy for me to lift, so I will have to contact another group, which we call the main group, that they come out and help me install the equipment and to configure it and so forth, so on. I want to do the daily checks on sites that have multiple Ethernet connections, AWS connections, and hotbox. A hotbox is like a router that has a whole bunch of dial-up modems connected to it, and these dial-up modems connect to CSX applications or servers that gets them to the application so they can be able to get reports and get train IDs and stuff to build the train with. So when these high box connections are down, they cannot get into it, get the information that they need, which would cause a delay in the trains. Also, I did research the alerts, and for daily reports, I would create tickets and troubleshoot the problem. I use Verizon application to create reports for the customer, answer phone calls for the customer, and to assist in troubleshooting and resolving their issues. Also follow up and update tickets or close tickets that were more than 3 days old. Excuse me. So, in addition to that, I also will get calls from the help desk, and I will assist them with their troubleshooting, whether it's unable to access the email, unable to print from a printer, unable to access certain applications. We have to first determine if it's a network issue, it's an equipment issue, or it's an application issue. So we help the help desk, CSX help desk out a lot. Also, will reset the AEI cameras, which the AEI cameras mainly monitor the routing of the train, or the direction the train is going. So like with Tropicana, or you got some type of mail that's on the train, or cars that's on the train, that's how they track and see where their product is. Also, I would create health reports for devices so they can have these reports for the daily morning meeting. We would also do, like I said, do the core maintenance where we would have to reboot the switches yearly. But however, we were rebooting different switches each week due to it's so many switches, it takes a year to reboot all the switches in CSX. So we was booting a minimum of 4 switches a week to reboot so the switches wouldn't get hosed up. We was having issues that the switches were getting hosed up and would lock up. So Cisco recommended that we reboot the switches once a year. And so that's what also I would reboot mainly the core switches and a few of the field switches if necessary. Also help assist and create documents and instructions or procedures, and I was submitted to the lead engineer for the ISO, which is the or our SOP database. I will proactively monitor the VPNs and the firewalls and the LAN for CSX and Verizon off our monitoring platforms. Also, I would do head-to-head testing with the phone company to try to isolate a problem, especially when the phone company kept saying they're not seeing a problem. So we would do head-to-head testing to isolate the problem. And a lot of times the problems is at the handoff, which we call the CFA, where we hand it off to the phone company. And a lot of times it is on the phone company side compared to our side, but it's been a few times it's been on our side too. I also help troubleshoot Fujitsu Fuji, which is a device that handles like larger circuits, like OC 48s, 192s, 148s. Basically, we can log into the device, but we can't do any configuration changes. So I can log into the device to see if traffic is passing both directions. And if I don't see traffic passing in both directions, I have to refer the ticket out to a group, a higher level group, who has access to change the configurations, to reboot, to reset the interface, or whatever they have to do to get the traffic passing. Sometimes they have to change out a card. It all depends. Also assisted in start and closes of change controls for CSX. What I would do is monitor the device while it was under the change or maintenance window, and make sure that the device came up after the maintenance window, and make sure all the alerts are cleared from it. Now, some of the applications that we did use for Verizon is ETMS, and which is our ticketing system, which could be automated or you can create it manually. We had DTI Express, we have ITS testing. These two right here are our testing applications that we use to test the circuit. We have an Espresso Alarm Management System, which is basically proactively create alerts on devices that are down or having an issue with an interface or BGP is down. We use Vinyl Suite for issues that do not show up proactively. Like if a customer calls in saying he has a slow response and we don't have an alert, we'll go into Vinyl Suite and see if the router is taking errors or the circuit is taking errors, or is it high utilization, or is there drops, so forth. So on ESP, which is Enterprise Solution Platform, we use that. That's our database as far as the circuits tell us who owns the circuit, who has the A in, who has the B in, and the routing of the circuit. We also use Genie Application Portal, which has a ton of applications that's dealing with the circuit and the equipment and the routing of the circuit and who owns it, different equipment as far as to look into the cloud and so forth, so on. So this is an example of some of the applications that we use. We have to log into Pulse Secure. This is our VPN connection. Since we're at the customer site, our stuff, it has to be encrypted, so we have to log into a VPN. If I was at a Verizon location, then I wouldn't have to use VPN. But since I'm here at the CSX location, we have to use VPN to access our application. This right here is an example of an ETMS ticket when you create it. You open it up on the issues that you have. You can have it can range from priority 0 to priority 4. The customer information, contact information, you describe, give a description of what's going on, and you can actually refer it out to the automated testing, so the ticket will automatically test the circuit, or you can create it manually, and you can test the circuit manually via the via the ITS application or the DTI application. And this is what it looks like once the ticket is created. You basically have the problem that's going on, the time it was created, ticket is open to be worked. Once the ticket is resolved, it'll go into resolve, auto close. Once the ticket is completed. So this is another application that we use. This is our ping, where I can ping several devices at one time instead of opening individual CMD consoles to ping one device. I can ping several devices with this app. This is our Espresso Alert. We have alarms to be ticketed, and then you have alarms pending ticket, and then you have alarms that were ticketed. And like here, since I blotted out the name of the device, it's an IP address like these would have BGPs down. When the alert clears, you get a blue flag and lets you know that the alert has cleared. We also use NetScout. We use NetScout on routers and switches and other devices where it helps with the network tremendously as far as dealing with applications, slow response, or if it helps out with SecOps, security. It pulls up all kinds of things. Like for instance, this is telling me what app is mainly being used the most, this is a wireless device that's being used the most here, but like I said, this is not a problem, but this is what it pulls up. There's some more things that it pulls up. It pulls up utilization of a circuit. It pulls up the protocol, what is being used. I've got several, like, it gives the color code, it gives you the percentage. If you hover over the colors, it will actually give the exact percentage that is being used. It also gives you the packet rate and bit rate that's being used, when it peaks, and time. certain situations happen. So if someone's complaining of slow response or can't log into the application, we can pull up this and see what's going on at that particular time, or if it have to go back 3 or 4 hours, we can go back 3 or 4 hours. We can go back as far as 24 hours. And so that also we can be able to get it down to like the particular port or a particular PC that might be causing a problem and shut down the port to that PC to resolve an issue. Now some of the CSX applications that they have is TCIS, Tech92, Drawing Index, CATS, Buoyance, NetScout, and AEI Studio. And you know, TCIS we already discussed. Tech92 is the CSX side of what they see down. And Drawing Index is basically a data, Drawing Index and CATS are basically a database for the circuits. They add the end user address, contact information, local phone company information, who owns it, so forth, so on. This is an example of Tech92. Tech92, like here, you have the red alert, tells me that this is down. The yellow alert or orange alert tells me there's an interface down or BGP that's down. White alerts mean that it's clear. This is an example of a TCIS ticket. Basically, you create the severity of the ticket, whether it can range from a SEV 1 to a SEV 4. In the description, you put in the device that is down, the IP address, and the ETMS ticket, which is Verizon ticket that's associated with it. You put in the location and the drawing index ID, so you know where to look up the drawing and see how it is being, where the equipment is and how it's being connected via fiber, cable, TUT, however it may be. This is an example of the drawing index. Normally you put the city or the IP address in the drawing title, or I can use the drawing ID if I know it, or I can use the street address or the city and look it up that way. Here's an example of the drawing index. For this particular site, this site has one router and has 3 switches. This particular switch is located at a different location, but it's connected via fiber. So, and it has a DG backup. So, when the primary circuit goes down, this DG backup should kick in where the client should have no issues as far as connecting to the network. However, they will run slow because they are on backup. It's an example of a RuggedCom and an Overture. This is the RuggedCom on top. This is the Overture. The RuggedCom is considered like a wireless device, but connects. It's kind of similar like an AP, but it's stronger. It goes from one building to the next building compared to the AP. It's just mainly located in that particular building or room. But a RuggedCom could go from one building to another building, connect those 2 buildings together. An Overture is connected to the Ethernet circuits, where we also call it the Bees box, where it is the actually last piece of equipment before it hits the router. And so this is what Overture is mainly dealing with, the Ethernet circuits. The DG backup is like what is on that drawing. This is a backup for when the circuit goes down, the customer will convert over to backup so they can still have connectivity to the network. They just run a little slower. Here's an example of the router and switches that we use. The router and switches are connected to the desktop where we configure it, and we go through Voyance, which is another application that we use to pull the configurations, which that's where we keep our configurations, and we blow them into the switch and router, and we test it to verify that it's up and working properly before we send it out into the field. This is what we put our routers and switches and core equipment in. We call them racks, so cages. They are on the raised floor. So the room is large. So there's a whole bunch of these racks there. And here's an example of a 7010 switch, which is a huge device. So this is an example of a 7010 connected. So You got the 7010 that's connected to firewalls and servers, which connects to over 4506 switch, which connects to a NetScout. A NetScout monitors the network all the way down to the application level. So we can isolate the problems that goes on to the network that are not picked up by proactive monitoring. So you see all the cabling and stuff, and all the cables are labeled. They have to be labeled because it's crazy the way they have it. So the evaluation of my internship, I love my job, and so I think Verizon Business is an excellent company to work for, especially for training. You get a lot of hands-on training. The mentors are very patient, and they allow you to work at your own pace and learning. That they also are available, and they also respond to questions, and they assist you in many difficult network issues. And then you also got access to numerous network devices, and you get to see all the different devices that go out in the field, not just for the training, but in any corporate building or any corporation network. We got stuff like riverbeds and cambians, and it's a lot of equipment that I didn't list on here that we maintain and monitor. Also learned that there's 100 different ways that you can do things. It's to troubleshoot an issue. As long as you get the same results, find out where the problem is. You isolate the problem. I might do it one way. Chuck might do it another way. Michael might do it another way. But we all come up with the same resolution, or find out where the or have isolated where the problem is. So it's more than one way to troubleshoot an issue. And also I learned that, in the network, you think some equipment may be out there for years, but it seemed like to me we changing equipment almost every year to different things, getting upgrades or something that's better. And so we are constantly in training. So whether it's the application or whether it's the equipment. So if you want to do an internship here at Verizon Business, just come on down here and I'll let my boss know. So I thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to me.